Hi everybody, welcome to Christy Dawn's Cooking, and tonight I'm bringing you one of our favorite nights of the year, and this is the night where we all get together and we watch A Christmas Story. And I started to make a whole evening out of it, so I'm going to show you exactly how I plan a special meal which involves meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and red cabbage. And if you know the movie, you know this is the meal that they were eating when the leg lamp arrives. And for a snack, we're going to make ourselves some Ovaltine, eat some fudge, some of Ralphie's O Fudge, and of course popcorn. Movie wouldn't be complete without a big bowl of popcorn. So stay with me. I'm going to show you exactly how I make this fun night celebrating A Christmas Story. So for this recipe, you only need two things for Ralphie's O Fudge. We need 3 cups of semi-sweet chocolate morsels and 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. So go ahead, add all of that in. Now you can add anything that you want to this. You could do any kind of like walnuts or pecans or mini marshmallows, anything that you would like. I'm just going to keep it very, very simple today. So I'm going to go ahead, put this on the stove top at like a medium-low heat and stir it every once in a while just to make sure that it's melting. When it's done, I'll bring you back and show you how we put it all together. Hey guys, I just realized I didn't have the camera on. I'm sorry about that. So what I did is I had the chocolate morsels and the sweetened condensed milk on the stove top for about 5 minutes on a medium-low heat. And it melted beautifully. When it was done, I just came over and I just poured it right into this and patted it down, smoothed it out. And I lined the baking dish with a piece of aluminum foil and sprayed it really well with some cooking spray. And this is an 8x8 baking dish. So this is how we make Ralphie's oat fudge. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you how we make the rest of the meal. For this recipe, you will need olive oil, onion, garlic, eggs, milk, Dijon mustard, some hot sauce, some dried marjoram, some dried thyme, salt and pepper. You'll need some hot sausage, some ground beef, as well as some dried parsley. And then we're going to do glaze, which is ketchup, light brown sugar, and apple cider vinegar. So stay with me, I'll show you exactly how I make this meatloaf. So the first thing I do is I cut up 3 medium-sized onions into a medium dice, and I heat up some olive oil. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to saute the onions until they're nice and tender and golden, and then I'm going to add in 3 cloves of garlic. While the onions continue to saute, we're going to go ahead and start on the meatloaf, the mixture. So what I went ahead and added probably about a tablespoon of grated garlic and added that in. So I'm just going to let it go for maybe like another minute. I don't want that garlic to burn. Then I'm going to shut it off and I'm going to let it cool over there. So in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and start with the actual meatloaf itself. So I'm going to go ahead and start with 3 eggs in a large bowl. Okay. Go ahead and get those whisked up. Okay. I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of milk. Whatever kind of milk you have, it doesn't matter. It can even be half and half, heavy cream, whatever you have, whatever you need to use up. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some Dijon mustard. This is 3 teaspoons of Dijon mustard and 1.5 teaspoons of hot sauce. Whatever hot sauce you have. You have the Old Bay hot sauce. This is actually Frank's. So if you have Tabasco, it doesn't matter. Whatever you have. Whatever you like. Okay. Get all those goodies off of there. Give that a whisk, get all that, get the mustard and the... As you can see, this meatloaf has a lot of flavor. This is not one of those meatloaves that it's going to be a bland, you just feel like you're eating a big hunk of a hamburger. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add the spices. I have, let's see, 3/4 of a teaspoon of dried marjoram and 3/4 of a teaspoon of dried thyme. Add that. I have 1 heaping tablespoon of dried parsley. Okay. I also have 1 teaspoon of seasoned salt and 1/2 teaspoon of seasoned pepper. Mix all that together. This is pretty much just our base. There's all the flavors and everything are in here for the meatloaf. Okay, now the one thing I forgot to mention on the intro is we actually need some breadcrumbs. And I actually had it sitting off to the side. You need some fresh breadcrumbs. Whatever you have. This is one of those recipes that's great to just use up. I have 1 potato hot dog roll left. So that's that. And then I had a heel of a piece of just sandwich bread. So it just made about 2 cups approximate. Doesn't have to be exact. So it's 2 cups of fresh breadcrumbs. Like I said, whatever you have, use it up. Okay, we're going to mix this so it's well incorporated. This meatloaf is definitely not the meatloaf that Mrs. Parker served to Ralphie and family. This is so good. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add the meat. Oh, let me chuck the onions off. Oh, those look good. So just getting a little bit brown. You can see those there. So I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to set those aside. Okay. So I have 2 pounds of ground beef, 85/15, and 1 pound of hot sausage. And I like to get the Jimmy Dean. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in. Take my rings off. Hands are swollen. I hurt my left hand yesterday. And now my hand's all swollen. And then what I do, I just go ahead and just break it up into pieces. I think it's easier just to combine it. Make sure it's completely room temperature. Whoop, sorry about that. Hey, shh. The Bumpus hounds are here. There's the ground beef, and now it's the sausage. You don't have to do hot. If you can't find hot, sometimes I have that problem. I can't find the spicy. Just add a teaspoon of the red pepper flakes to it. And that's a great substitute. If you want the hot, but you can't find it, just get the original and just add some pepper flakes. That's what I do often when I'm making the sausage sauerkraut noodle casserole. You've seen me make that before. Okay. So now the fun part. I can get in here and really get this thing mixed, but you don't want to overwork the beef. Okay. Just kind of want to bring it all together. That's why I like to crumble it up. It comes together quickly. Much quicker. I'm telling you, this meatloaf is delicious. Alrighty. I am going to get cleaned up, and when the onions have finished cooling down, I'm going to bring you back and show you how we add those, and we turn this into a beautiful loaf. So the onions and garlic are continuing to cool. So while they're doing that, I thought we'd go ahead and make the glaze for on top of the meatloaf. So in this small bowl, I have 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. I'm gonna add 1/3 of a cup of packed brown sugar. And we need 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. This is 1.5 teaspoons, so I think I need 4 of these. So just use whatever vinegar that you have. And then I'm going to taste it when we're done this to see if it has enough vinegar. I can always tell when there's enough vinegar for us because it kind of like bites me on the back of the throat. That way I know there's enough vinegar in here for my family. They love vinegar. So I'm going to mix this well. And we're actually going to brush this glaze on half of it before we bake it. And then when it's almost done, we're going to spread the remaining glaze for the last 15 minutes. So let me give it a quick taste. I think it's a little bit more vinegar. I'm not getting that bite. I'm going to use this one to test. There we got it. Okay. That's good to go. So I'm going to set this aside. Bring the meatloaf mixture back in. I'm going to go ahead, and add the cooled onions and garlic and oil. And I'm not going to wash this pan. I'm going to use this for the red cabbage. So just set this aside for the next dish. I love that when I don't have to wash too many pans. It's okay, there's a little bit of onions left in there. Okay. Okay, now with nice clean hands, I'm gonna go ahead and mix this in. And that's the reason why we wanted it to cool, because if it was just out of the pan after you turned it off, it would be way too hot and it might burn you. Okay. So there we go. This looks well mixed. So I'm now going to move over the pan. I went ahead and lined my cookie sheet, one of my cookie sheets, with some heavy-duty aluminum foil. I'm going to take this, I'm going to make it into one big loaf. This always works great for us. So if you don't have a loaf pan, no worries. You can just shape it into a loaf. I'll turn it this way. It's easier for me to do it this way. Okay. Try and get it as even as possible that you can, because that ensures that it's going to be cooked evenly. I need to push it down here a little bit. There we go. I square it off a little bit at the ends. Okay, so the onions left over in here. Let's take those out. Nice clean bowls. Okay, I'm gonna wash up. I'll be right back and I'll show you how to put the glaze on. Be right back. Okay, now for the glaze, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to spoon half of this on first, not touching the meat. Half of it on, I'm not going to touch the meat. Okay. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to smooth it out with the spoon. And not return this spoon to this bowl because we want to keep it from contaminating. And then I'll probably use a brush at the end. Okay, that looks good. Looks about half. Okay. So I'm going to set this aside for later. I'm going to use this just to brush all over. It's okay if it runs down the sides. Okay. This looks good. Oh, I just remember my son Ryan asked me not to put glaze on the whole thing. Whoops. Okay, so it's going to go in the sink. I'm not going to put it back in that bowl. And there you go, in the oven for 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. And then when it's done, or when that 45 minutes is up, I will bring you back and show you what it looks like. So in the movie, you saw Mrs. Parker cooking a huge pot of red cabbage on the stove that she must have cooked for hours and just cooked it down and cooked it down and cooked it down. I'm not going to do that today because if I did that, I'd probably never get my kids to eat red cabbage again. So I think we can do better. So I'm going to go ahead, and I did get some red cabbage. So I went ahead and cleaned it up. Just did half of the cabbage. Let me see, it was like, oh, it was like, well, anyway, however it was, I can't remember how it was. But I cut it in half, and I went ahead and I cut the core out. So I went ahead and cleaned everything up, make sure there's any leaves, outer leaves that didn't look very desirable. I went ahead and got rid of those. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to just cut this into small ribbons, like this. It's almost like making coleslaw. Let's go ahead and put this in our bowl. Back then, they just boiled everything to death. I remember my great-grandmother would just stick a chicken in her pot. This Grandma Emmerich, who wasn't known for her cooking. Not that she was a bad cook, she just wasn't as good as my other grandmothers. But she would just take a chicken and put it in the pot and boil it all day. To this day, whenever I smell boiled chicken, I think of her. So, part right here is, be careful at the end there. Alrighty. I'm not going to show you guys how to make the mashed potatoes because you've seen me do that already. But what I'll do, if you haven't, I'll link that video to this one so you can go see how I made homemade mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving a month ago. So I'm going to continue to cut this down into ribbons, and when this is all ready, I'll bring you back and show you how I cook this red cabbage. Okay, so the meatloaf has been in the oven for 45 minutes, and you can see now why I put aluminum foil on it. Oh my goodness, I just do not like to scrub this stuff up. I'm going to move a little bit of this glaze back because, like I said before, excuse me, I forgot to Leave some of the glaze off. Ryan likes it just plain. That's fine. More glaze for us. Okay. So, clean spoon. This is not the one I used earlier. I'm going to go ahead and put more glaze on, the rest of this glaze. I think this glaze is what makes it so good. I mean, think about it. You got the spiciness of the sausage and the hot sauce, and then we're doing a sweet glaze, the sugar from the ketchup and the sugar from the brown sugar, homemade brown sugar. If you want to learn how to make that, go to my Baking Essentials video, and I show you exactly how I make homemade brown sugar. Okay, this looks delicious. All right. So while this was baking for 45 minutes, I went ahead and made the mashed potatoes, and they're back here in a casserole dish. You've seen me make these before. So these are going to go into the oven as well. I put a couple pats of butter on top of that. So I'm just let these sit for a little bit, and we're going to get started on the red cabbage. So I'm going to make sure you guys can see this. Okay, looks good. So in the pan, I have 2 tablespoons of butter and about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to bring this up and let all this melt. And then basically I'm just going to saute the red cabbage in that. So I hope you all are having a great day. Getting ready for Christmas. I love these nights because I just feel like we can just slow down for a little bit. We can just have some family time, spend some time with the kids. My boys are actually at the age now, they're, the twins, Matthew and Davis, are 17, and Ryan will be 14 in a couple weeks. So they are actually doing all of their own Christmas shopping and wrapping. It's really kind of nice. We gave them a budget. Since none of them are working yet, but they're working on that, getting jobs. So they have to buy for their grandparents and their brothers and their parents. So. Okay, so I'm going to let this melt, bring it up to a point where the butter is foamy. That's what I'm looking for. We're going to go ahead and saute this in. So when it gets to that point, I'm going to bring you back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so you can start to see the pan is starting to get a little bit foamy here. Exactly what we want. Starting to sizzle a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of the red cabbage in. And this will cook down. So I'm throwing a medium-high heat. All right, now I'm going to get some salt. Sprinkle a little bit of salt on top. And just cook this down. So while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and put the meatloaf back in the oven for the last 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and also put the potatoes in to bring them up to temperature. And potatoes. So I'm going to continue to stir this. I think it's going to be so much better than Mrs. Parker's. She boiled all day in a big pot. That's just what they did back then. They didn't know any more. cooking techniques. That was before Julia Child and before all those different ways of cooking were taught to Americans. Okay, so I will continue to cook this and bring you back when everything's done. And there you have it, a Parker family favorite meal. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I also do hope that you all take some time during this crazy busy season to just have one night where you slow down and create some special memories for your family. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Also, if you'd like me to do another one of these, let me know. I was thinking about maybe doing one fun, especially for young kids, that was themed around the movie Elf. So I hope you all take good care, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday.